A single father, grieving and lost, sees a young Apache girl on the side of the road holding a sign that shakes him to his core. The girl whispers the man's name, unlocking a hidden history neither of them fully understood. They journey into the Apache reservation, where truths about family, ancestry, and betrayal come to light. The desert highway stretched out before him like an old scar across the land, endless, faded, and forgotten. Jackson Hayes gripped the steering wheel of his rusted-out Ford pickup, his fingers stiff from both the cold air of early spring and the tension that never really left his body anymore. It had been 6 years since Angela, his wife, died. Since then, silence and survival had become his closest companions. In the backseat, his son, Eli, had drifted off to sleep, had tilted awkwardly, a small plastic airplane clutched tightly in one hand. The hum of the tires against the cracked asphalt was the only soundtrack to his life these days. They were somewhere in Arizona, near the edge of the White Mountain Apache Reservation. He hadn't planned to drive this far south, but jobs had dried up again in Flagstaff and he'd heard about a ranch near Safford looking for workers. It was a maybe. Like everything else, life had become a series of maybes for Jackson Hayes. He noticed her just beyond mile marker 219, a girl, standing alone by the side of the highway, motionless except for the wind tugging gently at her clothes. She was small, maybe 10 or 11, with long black braids and a faded denim jacket that looked 3 sizes too big. Dust coated her boots, and in her small hands, she held a cardboard sign. As Jackson passed her, his eyes caught the words scrawled unevenly in black marker. He felt a punch to the chest as they registered. He doesn't know I'm his. His foot slammed the brake before his brain could catch up. The truck jerked slightly, and Eli stirred in the back seat, mumbling but not waking. Jackson reversed, gravel crunching beneath the tires, and pulled up beside the girl. His pulse was loud in his ears, louder than the idling engine. He rolled down the window. "You all right out here?" The girl didn't answer right away. Her eyes were dark, wide, and unreadable. They carried something older than she was, something ancestral. She stepped forward slowly. Her voice was quiet, not much more than a whisper. "Jackson Hayes." It wasn't a question. It wasn't polite. It was a declaration. He blinked, stunned. "Yeah, that's me. How do you know that?" She didn't answer. Instead, she walked around the truck and opened the passenger door. He could have stopped here or should have you, but he didn't. She climbed in like she belonged there, folding the sign carefully and setting it on her lap. Her movements were calm, deliberate. When she spoke again, she said, "You don't have to believe me yet, just drive." He stared at her. His mouth felt dry. She was maybe 11. Her skin was copper brown, her cheekbones sharp. She looked like Ia. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lena." She looked out the windshield. Her eyes flicked briefly to Eli in the rearview mirror. "Is that your son?" Jackson nodded slowly. "Yeah, his name's Eli." There was a silence then, the kind that didn't demand explanation, only endurance. Jackson put the truck into drive and eased it back onto the road. Questions clawed at his mind, but none came out the way he wanted. "Lena," he said again, slowly. "You said I don't know I'm your what? Your father?" She nodded. "Maria was my mom." That name, Maria. It hit him like a landslide. He hadn't heard that name in over a decade. Back then, he was just 22, working construction in Show Low for the summer. Maria had worked at a diner near the site. She was Apache, quiet and clever, with a way of looking at him that made him feel both seen and small. They'd spent the summer tangled up in one another, laughing under the stars, making plans that neither of them truly believed. Then, just as quickly as she'd appeared in his life, she was gone. No note, no word. He'd tried to find her, called the diner, drove through the reservation roads. Nothing. And now, this girl was saying she was Maria's daughter, that he was her father. "I didn't know," he said, softly. "She never told me." "She tried," Lena said. "But she said you left." "I didn't leave her," he said quickly. She stopped answering. "I came back, and she was gone." Lena didn't respond. She just watched the desert pass by through the window. "After a while," she said, "she died last year." Hard thing. They said it was her time, but it felt too soon. "I was living with Uncle Ron for a while, but he started drinking more after Mama passed. He told me the state would probably come get me soon. Jackson gripped the steering wheel tighter. Jesus. She kept a Bible. Lena continued. Had your name and a phone number in it. I called. It didn't work. So I walked to the road. Someone gave me a ride to the gas station, and I walked the rest. He looked at her again. Her expression hadn't changed. She wasn't crying. She wasn't even asking for anything. She had come not with desperation but with certainty, as if this moment had already happened in her head 100 times. Eli stirred behind them. Daddy, he mumbled. Are we there yet? Jackson glanced back. Not yet, buddy. Go back to sleep. Who's that? Eli asked, sitting up more. Jackson hesitated. She's a broken bar, Lena. She's going to ride with us for a bit. Eli peered over the seat. His eyes were still heavy with sleep, but his smile came easily. Hi, I'm Eli. You wanna see my airplane? Lena smiled. Barely. Sure. She turned around, and Eli handed her the little red plastic plane. As they drove, the three of them settled into a fragile rhythm. Jackson's mind was a storm, memory and possibility and guilt all swirling violently. He glanced over at Lena, so calm, so much like Maria it made his chest ache. Later that evening, they stopped at a roadside diner with flickering neon and faded red booths. Lena ate slowly, carefully, as if unsure whether the food would still be there if she looked away. Jackson watched her hands, as small, calloused, steady. She had lived a harder life than any 11-year-old should. They got a motel room for the night, the kind with chipped walls and thin towels. Eli conked out quickly on one of the double beds, airplane still in hand. Lena sat on the edge of the other, staring at the TV that played static in the background. Do you want to talk about it? Jackson asked. She shook her head. Not yet. He nodded and sat next to her, keeping just enough distance. She told me about you sometimes, Lena said after a long silence. Not much. Just that you were kind. That you helped her believe in things. Jackson looked at his hands. I should have found you. You didn't know, she said. Still, he replied, I could have tried harder. She forgave you? Lena said simply. She said she never blamed you. I didn't either. They sat like that for a while, quiet, sharing space neither of them quite knew how to fill. The next day, they headed deeper toward the reservation. Lena wanted to stop at Maria's resting place, a small, unmarked grave behind an old chapel where wildflowers grew despite the dust. Lena knelt there for a long time. Jackson stood back, watching her lips move as she whispered something into the wind. Later, they drove to meet Lena's old neighbor, an elderly woman named Cora. She greeted Lena with a warm hug and looked Jackson up and down with skeptical eyes. So, you're the one, she said. Took you long enough. He had no argument for that. She invited them in and told stories about Maria, her childhood, her fierce heart, her stubborn kindness. Jackson listened, absorbing it all like scripture. When they left, Cora gave Lena a small velvet pouch. Your mother wanted you to have this when the time was right. Inside was a silver pendant shaped like an arrowhead, engraved with symbols Jackson didn't recognize. Lena touched it reverently and put it around her neck. Back in the truck, Jackson finally asked, what do you want to do now? Lena didn't answer for a moment. Then she looked at him with quiet clarity. I want to come with you. He swallowed hard. You sure? It won't be easy. My broken bar, I'm not perfect. You're here, she said. That's enough for now. In the days that followed, they began the slow work of becoming something like a family. There were awkward silences, unexpected laughs, moments of anger and forgiveness. Lena and Eli grew close quickly. She helped him with his reading. He taught her how to skip stones. At night, she slept curled up in the bed beside him, while Jackson watched over them with something like awe. One evening, after dinner, Lena approached Jackson as he sat watching the horizon from the motel porch. You know, she said, you don't have to be afraid of being my dad. He looked at her, eyes tired but full. I'm not afraid of being your dad, he said. I'm afraid of not being good at it. She smiled. You're already better than most. He reached out then, pulled her into a hug that neither of them had asked for but both desperately needed. And as the desert night crept in, stars blinking slowly awake above them, Jackson Hayes held his daughter close and knew, for the first time in a long time, that he was exactly where he was meant to be.